All righty, are we live? Yes, we are. Woo! What do you say when you're at the craps table and there's a person standing around you and maybe there's two or three and they're all looking over your shoulder and you're collecting chips and you're happy and everything, and then they ask you the question, how do you play? So today's episode is going to be about what to say when they ask, how do you play craps?
Welcome to the Color Up Podcast. Whether you're a seasoned player or a beginner eager to step up to the table, this is your lucky podcast that's all about the thrill and strategy of the casino world. I'm your host, Jeremy. With me is Jim the Professor. Let's get rolling. Howdy, Jim. Welcome back for another episode.
Woo! It seems like forever since we've chatted.
Yeah, I had a guest a week ago, so it's been 2 weeks for you, and I think I took a week. I don't remember. No.
Yeah, it was something. It seemed like 2 weeks for me, or maybe it was you had a guest, and then
I think
we were off a week. Yeah, we skipped a week, and then. But anyway, it seems like a long time for me.
We're here. We got a good topic.
Yes.
I got new chips. I don't know why I'm showing these. I design new chips for my club members all the time, and these are comic book themed, so it's like.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're
Okay.
a club member, you probably have received these this last week or so.
Okay. Yeah, I got mine. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, very
so
nice.
we've both played craps since we've last talked.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I
Yeah.
guess we should probably share that. I mean, we're a gambling show, but I mean, primarily we kind of lean towards dice. I don't even know if we've gotten off the topic yet, but.
No, but we probably will get off the topic at some point. So.
Eventually, you kind of run out of things to talk about, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I guess we should talk about how our last dice sessions went.
So I'm going to let you go first since you're
Okay.
Mr. Color Up. We defer.
Well, mine's quick. It's not super exciting or anything like that. So essentially, by the way, for those who are watching in the comments, we may or may not get to your comments right now or during the show, but definitely during the monster roll, which is a little bit later on. We'll take calls. We'll answer your questions as many as we can. But I just want to let you know. So hang tight if we don't answer your comments right away. I played, a club member came to town. So I'm always happy when they reach out to me. If I can, I meet up with them. And so I met up with a club member and his son-in-law at the Peppermill Casino here in Reno.
Oh.
And we played for. I wasn't sure I was going to play. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really. Nowadays I always try to save up for my cruises to play then. So I'm like, I don't know if I really want to risk money, but, they wanted to play, and I'm like, you know what, I'll play with you guys, and I'll try to play something conservative. We ended up playing for about 3 hours, which was nice.
Woo! Monster session for you.
I mean, it went fast. I mean, we chatted a lot, so it was a good time. And at first, I started off. I'm like, you know what? I got to be super conservative. I'm gonna do like a 6 and 8 and like 2 come bets. And actually, as conservative as that was, it wasn't doing very well. I was just bleeding out money a little bit. And like, you know what? I'm gonna test and see if my old tried and true lay on the 10 and 44 inside will work. And sure enough, it was hanging in there. So
Okay.
that's what I played for the rest of the night. And after all was said and done, I tipped as much, pretty generously, usually almost every hand. I ended up coloring up with a $5
Hey,
profit.
there you go.
So
There
one
you
red
go.
chip. So I got 305 was the color up. And but
For $5 to spend 3
$5
hours
profit,
with a
3
club
hours,
member
having a good time was
Yeah.
well earned, I guess, not spent.
awesome, and the dealers appreciated it also. So
Yeah, and
congratulations.
they're a good crew at the Peppermill, so it was
Awesome.
nice time. What about you?
So I went on a cruise. I don't know if everybody remembers, but we had our spring break cruise, and I played pretty much every night, and I played a couple of day sessions. It was a 6-night cruise,
Okay.
and I was playing. I played a couple, 3 different ways. So I tried playing my normal way the first night, which is basically a 3-point Molly, and I was
Pass
down.
line, two come bets.
Yeah, pass line, two come bets, and played for a while, good long while, and I was tipping the whole time, and then I ended up down a little bit for that session. And then the second time I played, and again, I had everything written down, and I had it in one of those nice books, and I lost that in my prisoner of war book POW book that I was reading. But anyway, I was keeping track of the points with the app, which shout out to Carnival on their app. And I won the second night, got my money back, and and then I started playing a couple of different ways. I played with the 6-8 and the don't pass, and of course and I I feel icky doing that, but
because you're on the don't, or because you're playing both sides, hedging.
Yes, and yes.
Yes and yes. Okay, both ways.
All
of the above.
All
okay.
of the above. So anyway, I was playing, and and I tried to do that when the table was a little slower over there, because you got people, betting all tall and small and everything, but it got me some points, and I did get some money. And anyway, long story short on that one was I was able to tip a lot, like you were mentioning earlier. But the biggest takeaways from Carnival was, because we've talked before, and I think one of your recent guest hosts was talking about cruising.
Yeah.
Anyway, I listened to that one while I was on the ship, by the way. I tried chiming in, but the internet kept going in and out. But they need 2,000 points for Carnival, according to the casino host, to get a free cruise. So I said, oh, well, do you guys have a poster or something that I can take a picture of and see what the levels are? Oh, no, we don't have that. I said, is it somewhere online where you can find that? And he said, oh, no, we don't post it. I said, well, do you put the note underneath my door saying I won the cruise? And he said, oh, no, we don't do that. We'll reach out to you via email and in the mail after the cruise. I said, when is that? Sometime after the cruise. So very tight-lipped, very
a mystery.
Whatever.
It's a big mystery.
It is a big mystery with Carnival. Yeah. So I will.
We don't know. The host told you 2,000 points, but who knows what?
Who knows if
or
that's
what that
true.
earns, or if that's.
I don't know if she wanted 2,000 points right then or whatever, but anyway, my point totals would vary from about 300 to 800 points in a session. And I found the correlation over the days. There was a strong correlation with me tipping and getting points. And I was also teaching other players how to play, which is going to transition, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of our topic tonight.
Topic for the night. But I ended up with 3,600 points. On
Royal Caribbean, we know you'd get a certain tier list off of 3,600 points. That's a really good cruise. You'd get really great options. Carnival, who knows? We'll see, right? We'll keep us updated when and if they email you, right? But
exactly. So I have no idea. Supposedly, I'm going to get something in the mail. We will see. We will see. So that was it.
You said the second day you kind of caught up.
After
that, you were hedging a little bit.
Hedging a little bit.
You hate playing, but how did you kind of end up for the cruise?
So I almost got back.
I like
to
how
even.
You prefaced it. By the way, I lost my data. I lost my book.
That's
convenient, Jim.
No. But I almost got back to even. But I did keep track of the phone on the phone. So, and if it wasn't filming me right now, I'd try to open up the little thing and see. But I did finish a little bit down. I thought I was going to be back even, and I was looking at it, and I was like, no. And then that last night, I went and played some more, and that one was the night I actually won some money back. But then I started running my mouth and started teaching a bunch of people how to play on the last night. And if I would have walked away, I would have walked away a winner for the entire 6-night cruise. So, but I was
distracted.
Well, I don't want to say distracted. I was in the educational mode. So.
Oh, okay.
But that's what it was.
Okay. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like you lost a little bit. Maybe you didn't prepay. You didn't prepay $2,000.
Oh, definitely.
No. Okay.
No.
Well, then I say that's a pretty successful trip.
Yeah. I think it was. Yeah.
Well, it does happen a lot. Whether you're on a cruise or whether you're on I think it's more on cruises than more on land based, but I don't want to make this again a cruise show.
No, we're
But
not.
it does happen when people they come up right behind you, or they stand
Yes.
back a little bit. You
Mm-hmm.
see them kind of watching a little bit, and then some of them will ask you, "Oh, how do you play this game?
Yeah.
What's going on here?" Right?
That is
Um,
very true.
so, what was kind of your experience? How do people approach you?
So I would be playing, and typically, if there's not as many people at the table after it has been a up and down, and it's taken a few people out, there'll be some room on the rail, and they will get a little closer, and they'll be looking at it, and they're just have this inquisitive face. And sometimes they will actually say, "Well, how do you play?" or "What's going on?" And I'll say, "Oh, it's a really simple thing." I said, you see that big white thing that says on?" I said, "We're trying to roll that number before the bad number." And then he'd say, "What's the bad number?" And then I'd flash him a gang sign, and
Okay.
because I would not break
You
the
don't
code.
want to say it, right?
I'm not going to say it. And he said, "Oh, okay." And they watch for a little bit, and then sometimes they'd say, "Hey," and they'd watch for a while. I remember this one girl on the cruise. She watched the first night, and then I was kind of talking to her a little bit. And then the next night, she came over to play. I met some other people who were relatively new players. I met a couple guys who actually watched your video and was actually playing your, what was it? No, they weren't playing the lay. They were playing it was a hybrid system.
Like
And
a
then-
don't pass, and then
Yeah, don't
some
pass.
numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what I did for the second night.
Okay.
So they were playing that, and then I had other guys who were playing all different kinds of ways. We didn't really have any don't players. There was a couple of guys doing don'ts, but they only played like one night. And then the rest of the people were trying to win the ATS, which only hit one time, I understand, on the first night when I wasn't there, of course. I saw the half of it get hit a couple times, but I didn't play the ATS, but maybe a couple, 3 times because I wasn't up high enough. So
Yeah.
one of those kind of deals. But yeah, people just sit back and just looking at you and want to play. And then I actually had one guy who watched for a half hour on the last night, and then he came on in when the puck was off, and then he did exactly what me and this other guy were doing, and we were crushing it for a little while with the come bets and odds, and we were crushing it. And that's when I got up about $300 or $400, and we were talking, and one of the guys left. He was in the Coast Guard, and he left and went away. And actually, he lives not too far from me over here. We come to find out because we left out of Norfolk, and nice guy. He and his wife or girlfriend, I can't remember what, they played right along with us. And anyway, good time. But the other guy stayed, and I felt bad. It was the last night, and he was having a good time playing. But before I was getting ready to leave, and he was messing up with his come bets and stuff, and I just didn't want him listening to the dealer the whole time. So I just stayed, and we just chatted. Of course, that's when the table went back down.
Oh, okay.
And then finally I said, "You know what, hey, you feeling good?" He said, yeah, I got it. So then we left. But yeah, it's a question that I get asked quite often. I don't know if it's my personality. I don't know if it's my job as a teacher to want to help people learn how to play. But yeah, how do you play? What's going on? What are you doing? That kind of thing. How about you? When you're at the table, you see the
Yeah, I
little
guess
eyes?
certain people seem to be more approachable than others. I guess I don't know. So there is something about that because I do get a lot of people that there's room at the table, and they'll come by me, and then they'll usually ask me. And if they're asking me, they probably don't. They don't know my background or anything like that. Usually, whenever I'm at a table, someone knows who Color Up is, right? So. But if there's someone asking, they probably don't know. They don't know about the game. And I don't give any unsolicited advice. I'm not going to tell anyone anything. I'm not going to, if people have like questions and they're asking the dealer or asking the player next to them, I'm never going to butt in and say like, because actually a lot of times I hear kind of like incorrect things.
What?
or bad-
Yeah, I
bad
was gonna say,
advice.
if you hear something wrong,
Yeah, a lot of
will you
times,
speak up?
or not, maybe not wrong, but I mean, people really have strong opinions about how you should play,
Yeah.
and without some context, and knowing maybe the beginner's situation, it's maybe not the best idea, right? For example, like you there'll be someone, well, you got to play $25 and you got to play max odds, right? Here in Reno, a lot of the tables have 5 times odds. So you got to put max 5 times odds, and you'll see them put down like
$50,
$100,
$10
right? Or
table, whatever.
$125, right? And the player's like, you see their eyes like bug out, and they're like, okay. And a lot of times you'll see them back away or something like that. But that's kind of the advice where it's like, well, it depends where you're at. Do you have $200 to play with? Or, do you want to play for a long time? There's some context that you might want to know, whether besides just saying, hey, play a line bet with max odds, because, all your bets riding on one single number and your night could be over very quickly. So
Very quickly.
yeah, I hear things, like that, or they're like, oh, you should, always do the horn bet, on the come out roll to protect. And it's like, that's okay for you, but I don't know if you should be off the bat teaching someone like that, because they're like, the horn bet's great because it protects your pass line bet. So always play the horn on the come out roll and things like this. I'm like, yeah, but that's half the story. The other half is you're going to lose a lot more money playing, those prop bets. And so there's stuff like that. But I don't butt in unless they specifically approach me and then ask me. And funny enough, more times than not, because I'm a pretty low key guy, especially at the table, and I take my time with the people. I won't, as soon as they go, so how do you play this game? Usually my advice is real simple to begin with. It's, well, you bet on a number, and if it rolls, you win. That's kind of the game in the nutshell. And they're like, okay. And I'll kind of leave it at that a little bit, see if they make some follow-up questions.
Okay.
But because usually other people will, oh, well, this is what you should do. When the puck's on, the puck's off, 7-11, 2-3-12, then you want to protect it with your horn, and then you got to do odds, which is the best bet in the casino, blah, blah, blah. And they go on and on, and then I just,
it's too much.
information overload.
Yeah,
I
it's
see
too
a lot
much.
of people do information overload on people. And at that point, what am I going to say? So a lot of times I'll tell people the basics of you bet on a number and hope it rolls. And then other people jump in because people love to share their supposed knowledge, I guess. So more times than not, I don't know if I'd call it bailed out from helping players, but people jump in and they want to talk and say how to play the game according to them. So I actually don't help that many people play.
Which is ironic because
Which is
you run your channel's all about.
and I definitely don't go like, hey, I've been studying this game for a decade or so, and I know it pretty well and can answer your questions. But I'm not going to volunteer that. But so it's funny in that way. So yeah, I don't. But every once in a while, the table's completely empty, and I try to instead of just information overload, this is how I do it. I let them kind of lead it. Like they'll ask the questions. And I'll drip the information to them on like a need to go basis.
Okay.
I've kind of found that's kind of the best. I just see too many players get overloaded with information. They'll be polite and they'll watch for another minute, and then you will never see them. They won't play. They'll just back off. But if you give it to them real simple, piece by piece, here's a pass line, or you want to bet on a number, let's bet on the 6 and 8. You put your money on the table and the dealer will put it up on the number for you. And then we just sit back and wait and see if it rolls and you win. And people can ease into it. I see that works a lot more often.
Okay. So my take is this. I'm a chatty guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty loud at the table, and I'm smiling. I'm not angry. Or whatever. And my thing is when people come up and say, how do you play? I said, well, he said, and I'll start off, hey, see that little puck right there? Or I'll say, hey, let's just wait until this round's over, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
And that's what I'll do. And,
So you kind of take them on as a pupil.
I do.
It's like, hey, we're going to schedule a time as soon as this game ends.
Yeah.
We're gonna go learn this game together.
Or
You
I'll
kinda take
say,
that approach?
or what I'll do is, and this is what we do call in the education business, checking for prior knowledge. I said, what do you know about the game?
Okay.
You know,
I like
I'll
that.
say that, or I'll say, well, what do you know about the combinations on, a pair of pair of 6-sided dice? And we'll start the conversation off that way. Or they'll say, I had a buddy who plays, and
So you get into dice combos. See, I never.
oh
share-
no, I'm just checking at that
just
point. Yeah,
level-
yeah, I'm
knowledge
just
level.
talking.
Okay.
I'm just talking. I'm evaluating what I'm talking about, and then I will, or what I'm talking, who I'm talking with, and their knowledge, and then what I'll do is I'll just go from there, because they might say, well, how are you playing? Or you seem, if things are going well and I'm putting a lot of chips in my rack and everybody else is losing, or a lot of people are losing, not getting as many chips. So I say, well, how come you're winning and they're losing? Oh, because they're playing this way, or they're doing this and I'm doing this, that type of thing. But you think about it, for the beginner, the chips are flying all over the place. People are throwing in chips. Do this, do that. The jargon, the language of it.
Yeah, there's a whole language to.
There's
the
a
game
whole language on there. The layout, where's the chips going? Where's, I had people ask me, hey, well, where's the money going? I said, it's all going to the casino eventually. But I said, right now I can show you where it is temporarily. But yeah, showing them the little things, because it's very confusing. But I said, it's very confusing, but it's actually brilliant, and it's very simple to understand once you understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And as far as playing them goes, I will, start off with a 6 and 8 sometimes. Then other people will say, well, I'm going to play like you. I said, well, okay. I said, there's no guarantees. Individual results may vary.
Right. I can see you joking and saying that, right?
Yes, I do. And that's what we do. That's what I do. But then I will always try to wait until before they start playing. I'm going to have them wait until the puck is off. And I'm going to try to start with good etiquette built into it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how much do you find yourself in the conversation talking about like etiquette? Like, hey, you should buy in when the puck's off. You shouldn't say, like you said, you threw up gang signs. You shouldn't say the word 7. Like, how much of, watch your hands.
Oh yeah,
'cause you don't wanna get hit
that's a
by the
beginning.
dice.
When they're shooting from the other end, I'll say, hey, because people will like to point.
They a lot of time, hey, what's that? Right?
What's that? Is that no?
Yeah, watch your hands. Right?
Watch your hands. Yeah. So yeah, I do it all. I do it all. I bet you I had over the 6-day cruise. I bet you I spoke to probably 20 people. Maybe 24 at least. And I was playing each night. And some nights I'd have like 4 or 5 people. And then there was other people who were like standing behind them listening.
So you're holding court here at the table.
A little bit of
4 or
court
5
there.
people.
Oh yeah. And the dealers loved it. And I think that's why I got my points. Because I was also, because they'd say, well, why do you keep throwing that white chip in there? With Carnival, it's blue. They said, why are you throwing what's that blue chip for? I said, well, that's for the dealers. Because I would say, like, dealers on the box or dealers on the whatever come bets I had up. And
that's probably the number one question I get from knowledgeable or regular players who seem to have, pass line and
basics
down. They're like, what are you doing there with that bet? And I'm like, because I never say anything, right? Because it's kind of obvious between the dealer and whatever, if
Yeah, you're throwing in a 1,
yeah.
Single.
Or I put it next to my bet, next to my pass line, or next to my come bet, or whatever. It's obvious to the dealer, but I'm not saying anything. So that is kind of a number one question from regulars I get is, what are you doing there? And I'm actually surprised how many people don't know. Tipping's a thing.
I remember the first time I asked somebody. I was on a cruise ship. It was my second cruise, and I had already been to Vegas after this one, so it was early, and it was early when I started getting going, and I was on the cruise ship, and on that one they had one dealer. It was dealer on the line, and then it was 2 times odds. So he had a pass line bet for the dealer, and he had 2 singles behind it. And I asked the guy, I said, what's that? And he said, that's the dealer bet. That's how we tip. That's how I tip. And then I realized and watched the point hit, and he paid the player first, and then he paid the dealer, and then the dealer, got all 5 chips or whatever it was on there. So I learned a lot. But you're right. I should have known that ahead of time, but that was the one thing I had to ask. And I was embarrassed because I actually was playing come bets and stuff already back then. So yeah, that was a definite one on that one. But I tend to keep it very simple. And, some people don't want to throw the dice. And I said, no, okay.
I see that a lot. They're always afraid. I always try to encourage them.
Yes, that's what I did.
And a lot of the times I will actually bet for them. They're like, I don't know. And I always encourage, I'm like, here, I put money down on the line for them.
Yeah.
I put, $10 table. Here's $10. Here, I made the bet for you. Just roll the dice. And they're like, what if I lose your money? I'm like, don't worry about it. So I do that a lot. I like to encourage people to throw the dice, and I'm willing to pay $10 for someone to throw
as
the
a little
For
lesson,
one,
yeah.
I believe in that's not
Beginner's
real, but
luck.
I kind of believe, the
Superstition.
beginner's luck. I'm hoping that it works out. Like we get it on Monster Roll, and I'm going to clean up on my $10, investment for the shooter. Obviously it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But that is one way I encourage people to shoot. But yeah, a lot of people, they're afraid to shoot. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like if you throw the dice off the table, they'll just give you new ones.
Who cares?
I said everyone does it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are nervous about that for sure.
Now, do you ever start getting into, if they ever ask you about the dark side, the don'ts?
I try to keep it as simple as possible because that's pretty complicated.
Yes.
It's easy in the way, but I usually cover it in an easy way because especially lately when I've been playing lay bets, they're like, well, what are you doing there? I'm like, well, I'm playing opposite of everyone else. So I'm betting against that number rolling as opposed to everyone else is betting with it and they're going to win with the roll of that number. I'm betting against it. I said this game you could bet either way. And so, and I try to keep it just that simple because I don't want to get into like lay odds and you bet more to win back less. And I just because usually most people are like, okay, never mind. Let's get back to the normal stuff. Betting on the numbers, which is fine. And they probably shouldn't be. I don't know, shouldn't because it's fine. But get the light side down, and then if you want to learn about the dark side, apply it later. But yeah, I tend to not get into too many details about the dark side. And they're seeing most players are not playing that way.
Yes.
So
very few. Like I said, on this cruise, everybody was on team pass line and place bets. That's for certain.
Which is obviously you'd be winning if the table's cold, right? And you should be on the dark side if we only knew, right? But it's just something that. Again, there's so many factors. Not only is it just opposite game, but then you deal with the superstition of all the other players and people, so it's a whole thing that I just don't get into.
It's a big can of worms for when you're standing
that's
at
a good
the
way
table.
to put it. Right. When people are trying to get the 1 minute lesson,
yeah.
like it's a can of worms to kind of open up. So best I can, I'm saying that's just a way to bet against the numbers and trying to leave it at that. And most people are satisfied with that answer.
It's very, and you can tell from the student too, or whoever's how they're catching on. Yeah. And some people will catch on very quickly, especially if they have some experience in some other casino games, and they'll understand what's going on. And then you've got other people. What just happened there? Oh, well, what happened there was, the big red rolled, and that one knocked out everybody's bets over there. But why did you get paid on that last one? Well, that last one, it was a come bet, and because they didn't take that one down because that one is the same rule: 7 or 11, you win; 2, 3, or 12, you lose. And that was a 7. So that's why you heard the dealer say last come, or the stick person say last come get some. So, but yeah, it's interesting when you have all these people just standing around. And the last night I had people side by side, new people. So it was me in the corner by the dealer, and then boom and we were all playing kind of the same way. And sometimes, I'd be chatting and I'd forget to put odds or forget to put a come bet down, that kind of thing. But I mean, it's a lot of fun and it's a very social game. And I said, you're not getting that at a lot of other games that I know of in the casino. You're definitely not getting that at the blackjack table. I do see some of the poker guys talking every now and then. I did learn a lot from some of these other games. I had a couple guys on the cruise, a coworker and her husband are very knowledgeable when it comes to a lot of the card games and the poker games and stuff. And I was able to learn a lot about those games. But I still wouldn't have felt good enough to actually know what I'm doing because, I don't know basic, what do you call it? Basic, poker games and stuff. So I've got none on that one.
How often do you think people actually, they ask a question, so how do you play this game? How often do you find them actually go, okay, put down money and start playing beside you, as opposed to like they listen to a little bit and they go, okay, maybe I'll try that later.
So on this cruise, I had some people who would listen like every time I was playing. They would come by at some point at the night, and they would come by. I had some people who would, as soon as we started going, they said, okay, and they'd go get some money or whatever, and they'd come back. Then I have one person who just said, hey, right now, let's go. And then the other guy said, okay, I'll go too. And they'd start playing. And because I think there's something different about our game versus the other games of the casino, that there's again, that social aspect, the camaraderie or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's especially on a cruise when you don't have the dark siders and you got that whole,
right.
Light side, Star Wars, the good guys versus the bad guys, perceived bad guys. And so, yeah, it's
yeah. The nice thing is you can really go to slow pace. Like you literally don't even have to make a bet. Just buy in and let's watch, or make a pass line or watch, or make one bet. And like your bet doesn't affect anyone else. So no one cares what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's very comfortable. You can keep chatting. You can keep asking questions, where it's like on the card tables, it's like you're expected, it feels like you're expected to know how to play.
Yes.
Once you sit down.
Before you get there.
Yeah. It's fast moving, and people are sitting right next to you. And it's like, hey, you took my card, or you should have done this. And they feel like it affects, their game. So there's a little bit of contention there. And and I mean, it's different, obviously, if the people are nice or the dealer is helpful and kind of helping you, I think it's always helpful to let people know, hey, I'm new to this game. So can you help me out? And most people kind of are helpful. Some people are not.
Yes.
But those games do feel a little more unapproachable. It's like you got to know, because, hey, it's your turn coming up right away, and you can't take any hands off. It's just it is a little different feeling. Where
there's a little. It's more approachable. It's the camaraderie, the yelling and screaming.
Now the intimidation factor is not more approachable. That's higher. I think higher.
That's higher because, again, the jargon, the throwing of the chips. I mean, a blackjack table.
Game.
Yeah,
blackjack. You put two cards in front of you.
That's right.
And,
Put you put your chips down or whatever. Yeah. Where with the craps, you're putting chips. At the beginning, you have to put cash down, which is intimidating to a lot of people. There's a lot to be said, and then especially if it's crowded, you have to wait until there's a little spot in there, on there. But I think our game could be on the rise. I really do. I know the numbers say it's not, but they're not going anywhere. We've done a show on that. Yep. But I think it could get back to the fun stuff and maybe get a little more space in some of these casinos and all. But
we'll see what this younger generation does, right? I mean, if they
it's up to them.
Right. So, part of this show is we're trying to give you some maybe tips on how you can help people when they ask questions. Whether we're doing it right or wrong, I don't know. We're doing the best we can. But I think the key is just try to be helpful, to be friendly,
pleasant.
I think pleasant and friendly is more than anything. Just to say, I'm having a good time, and you can have a good time with me, and this is a fun game. And the details will work themselves out. I think If you know the game a little bit, you teach what you know, right?
Yeah. This
There's always
basically.
there's always someone who knows a little bit less than you.
And
You can
keep it
always teach what you
simple.
know.
Keep it simple. Like, and
Best
we
you
talk
can.
about, talk about chunking, leaving it in small little chunks, I think is the best way to do it. One of my coworkers was on the cruise, and she had never played before, and she'd been on a couple cruises. So on the last night, she and Bonnie Boo were beside me, and I would say, okay, put your money here. So they did on the pass line, and she didn't want to shoot, or I can't remember if she actually shot or she didn't want to shoot, but on one of the rolls they were just doing. I told her she had like $100. I said, well, look, just bet that. I said, pick a number, 6 or 8, and she did that. And then Bonnie Boo picked the 6, and then there must have been, I don't know, 6 or 7 8s, just bam, 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 and then I said, I was kicking myself in the butt. I was like, about after the 6th one, I said, if she would have been pressing, she would have been have a couple big scores by now. And well, Bonnie said, well, why don't you do that? And I said, and of course, by that time, what happens? There comes Big Red. But she did color up, walked away after a little bit. But she played a little bit. But it's getting over the hump, and it's learning and feeling good about it, and if you have a good experience and there's people nice to you, then you're going to want to play again.
That is a tricky one. Is, I would say, pressing your bets is a little much unless
for the first time unless they've been there for they've been playing for 30 minutes, an hour, right? And you can maybe, and then that they've kind of, okay, I've got the basics down. If I want to bet on the 6 or 8 or 9, I get it. Or you think they've got it down, and then you can maybe introduce it. But yeah, that's something, that is one topic, probably, again, like the dark side, pressing. Maybe that's for session 102, right? Yeah, maybe that's for the 3rd or 4th night of the cruise.
Yeah,
not the first night. But it's very true. And by the way, we are powered by Sports Grid, and we will be getting to all your comments and everything. I saw one of my buddies earlier jump in, and we will get to all your comments.
Yeah, we'll wrap up this conversation. We'll get to the monster roll very quickly. A couple other things that I thought of. One of the annoying things, unfortunately,
is what?
Is the 6 and 8 payoff odds of 7 to 6. So that is the worst thing to explain, that everything else is
$10, yeah,
but those ones you got to bet $12. And it's like,
they're the ones you want to suggest first because of obvious reasons. 5 and 5,
and lowest house edge, the most dice combos, and they're just good bets. So it's like, okay, that's $12, and it's just.
Yeah,
why?
But it's true. You just and you have to keep it simple. You just say, hey, for payout purposes, that one is 12.
Yeah,
and then after a couple of times, 12 gets 14, 12 gets 14, 12 gets 14. Then they figure it out on that. And it's not a bad deal.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's just one of those. It's like a little thing, like, oh yeah, by the way,
it could scare them off.
Right. It's one of those, and they're like, huh? And so you got to say, well, it pays a little different. So to get paid properly, you have to, make it a $12 bet. It's not the end of the world, the end of the conversation, obviously, but it is something. It's just like a little extra thing for craps. When people are like, boy, that's a complicated game. And then you're like, blackjack or whatever. It's like, oh, you just put $10. You put it here. It's like, oh yeah, everything's $10 except for the 6 and 8.
Yeah.
Except for the odds change all the time. And if you play in the middle, well, those aren't so bad because it's like, oh, you can play those as little as $1.
Yeah, I don't even bring up the middle. They ask me about the middle. But... Oh yeah, I always say stay away, especially the first, second time. But I will say this though, I always, while I'm talking and teaching or whatever, I'll always ask them. So, what are we rooting for right now? I said, what are you rooting for? And they'll look at the table and they'll say, well, I want we got the one here. Okay, so we want the 5. And then what else you got? 6 and the 8. And I explain to them how the box works and how to do it. So I'm always checking for that kind of stuff. So I think it's important to to ask them what they want.
Yeah, you do an ask. I usually tell them. So I'm like, okay, so your pass line bet, is a bet on that 4 because that's where the puck's at, and then you also have a bet on the 6 and 8. So 4, 6, and 8. We want to see those. And
There are
we're
your
gonna win.
numbers. There are your
Those are
numbers. Yeah.
So I do recap, but yeah, I like how you kind of do it similar. You just ask them, hey, what
Yeah,
are
I
you looking for?
ask them
like
because
that way. That's good.
yeah, I think it's a good one.
You're probably better at that because you're an official teacher. But
I don't know about that. So,
what
let's
else
see.
we got?
So with this one here, how much on the jargon do you get into?
As much as needed.
Okay.
Probably like you. The one that comes up real quick is I say Big Red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something I start in the first few minutes of the conversation.
Yeah, because it's kind of the 7 you need a lot, right?
Yeah, I'll whisper.
It's the most
I'll whisper in
likely
there.
number.
And say,
Yeah,
hey,
I'll
we
say-
don't say it.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's bad luck. A lot of people think it's bad luck to say the number 7. So I say Big Red, but if that number rolls, that's when everyone loses their bets. Or
That's right.
if we get to the conversation about a pass line, hey, you will win with that number. So that kind of jargon. I don't know what else really you need. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens that really doesn't,
How about the
Yo-
I like
people
the
do
yo.
ask the yo. People,
Yeah,
it's
because
real
everybody
simple, like,
yells yo.
yeah, because there's a lot of bets in the yo, and they're like, "What's the yo?" And like, that just means 11. That's real simple. I'm like, oh, okay. I may or may not tell them. Well, it's because it rhymes and kind of sounds too similar to 7 and 11. So the dealers say yo, so there's no confusion. I usually don't get into that, but
Okay.
I just say it just means 11.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they need. I mean, it does hard ways. I don't know that that's a jargon as much as that is what the bet is. So people will be like,
Explanation.
yeah, people go, what are the hard ways? And so, I will sometimes explain it if they're competent enough. But again, like I try to steer away, like not great bets. You probably don't want to play those for your first time. They're high risk, high reward type bets over there in the middle. And I try to steer away from that. But
What do you tell them when they ask you about the ATS?
It's a side bet that players like. It's not a good bet. Don't worry about it for.
Oh my gosh, man! No. Yeah, I give it to them
You
straight.
encourage it, huh?
No, I don't encourage it. But what I tell them, I
okay.
said, it's like playing bingo. I said, you're trying to do mark out on bingo. We want to mark all those. These guys want to mark all those numbers out before Big Red rolls its head. And if they do it, then it's a huge payoff. Your 555 bet will pay $1,050. But I said, watch how many times people, because some people play it every roll, every shooter. I said, watch how many times, and I would pick a guy or a gal that I knew was playing it the whole time. I said, watch how many times they've done it. We go on around the table, and then we went around the table again. And I said, I think we've gone through at least 10 shooters, and some of these shooters got knocked down multiple times, come out 7s. I said, think about how much money they lost.
You gotta let them know that the math it's 190 times before they'll see it. That's what it's supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
So technically you won't see it for 100.
And I
But
saw the whole time, and we only had one time on the whole cruise.
because you weren't there for. Well, you may have seen 190 shooters.
I would
total,
think
but
so. I would think so. We had a bunch overall.
obviously it happens sometimes more. Yeah, but it's another one of those. I'm like, not a great bet. It's jackpot bet. It's high, little small bet wins you big, but it's unlikely, and move on. I try to leave that conversation for another day instead of explaining. And then on the Royal ships, they don't have it. The ones that I've never seen one. And then the Reno tables, it's not real popular. So I don't encounter the side bets as much. So, yeah.
So not so much for you on that one. So yeah, I try to explain that one to them because that one's easy for them to follow. because that gets them centered in the
Certainly
middle.
is one of the easiest side bets to explain too. You just got to roll all the numbers.
And I tell them, I said, watch him. The stick person who has the stick is going to flip it over, and they push the dice up, and I think they do it to that section underneath that little light that shines down on a lot of tables, and they do it to make sure that it's a habit, and they flip the thing over. So that one's easy to explain. So that's a fun thing. I said there's a lot of different ways to play. There's dozens of bets on here, and I think you had a video, and we had a show one night recently where it was 80 or 82, whatever the number was. I said there's all kinds of bets on this table. Some of the best bets in the casino, and some of the really bad bets in the casino are at this table. And I said you just got to figure out what you're comfortable with and learn to play and all that good stuff. So yeah,
one thing that a lot of times comes up, especially when other people jump in to try to help, is the conversation of YouTube comes up a lot. So go watch YouTube. That's usually people send off. There's a lot of information. Go watch YouTube, and that's kind of like the go-to, right? If you want to learn how to fix your car, your toilet, learn craps, go watch some videos on YouTube. So that's kind of like the go-to.
Absolutely. Hey, and by the way, that's one of the things because I didn't get the internet until like the last day.
Uh-huh.
And then, but I had screenshots of your page of Color Up, so I saved on my phone. So I would pull it up and say, "This is the guy you want to look Color Up."
That's
sometimes,
nice of you.
Sometimes I wear the shirt, and one night I wore my dice shirt, and I had my glow in the dark shoes. So I was the obnoxious guy at the table, and all. But everybody, I think, had a really good time, even though everybody didn't always win or whatever. There were some big players over there, and there was a new player who was there, and the big player was there while the new player was there, and there was nobody there to coach the new player. Mm-hmm. And he was like right beside him, and he was just talking loud and just asking him stupid questions. And this guy had, he'd buy in with $4,000, and
mm-hmm.
It was just, and it was a packed table, and I was watching, and I was like, this ain't going to be too good. And sure enough, it wasn't. And he got mad and left. But yeah, etiquette is a big thing. We talked about that. What do you, if somebody asks you, other than pick a number and bet on it, what's your elevator pitch? Or is that the only elevator pitch you got?
For the game? Or
yeah, for the game. When they say, how do you play? What do you tell them?
Yeah, that's the elevator pitch. I've narrowed it from a minute to 30 seconds to 10 seconds. It's, hey, you just bet on the number that you think's going to roll, and if it rolls, you win. I said the game's that simple. There's a lot of different ways to bet on the numbers, but that's the game. And they go, oh, okay, and then they will ask more questions or not. But that's
so you just give them that.
Pitch.
I give them the good old, every book that I read. Hey. First roll is the come out roll. 7-11 wins. 2, 3, or 12 you lose on the pass line. Any other number goes up and the puck goes on, and then we want that number to roll before big red. And
I wait for the question first, or it's like, okay, so what is that? And then I'll say, okay, so the pass line is a way for the dice choose the number for you.
Right.
So you can bet on those numbers yourself. You could pick any number. Or you could bet on the pass line or the come bet, and the dice choose the number for you. That's the difference between those bets. So,
okay.
But yeah, I keep it short and sweet. And again, like I said, I'm not explaining that much. Maybe I should explain more. Maybe I should. Everyone says, "Hey, why don't you pass out business cards or chips?" And I just don't do that much. I let people.
And just I know we got some new listeners in here, and I saw, and I know we'll get to the comments in the Monster Roll, but somebody asked what Big Red is. So Big Red is 7, and the reason why you say Big Red is because it's bad etiquette to say 7 at a craps table, because for most players, 90% or whatever, most players,
that's the losing number.
That's the losing number, and not only losing number for one bet. If you have multiple bets on the table, they all lose. So that's why you don't say it. It's a superstition. It's a table etiquette.
That's the key. It's a superstition because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't affect anything.
No.
It's literally hogwash. But people believe in superstition.
It's
and
it's
if you
being
say
polite.
it in the
It's
7
being-
rolls,
yeah.
right? It's a way to be polite, because if you say it and it rolls and they lose $200,
They're mad.
they're
at
going to
you.
blame you,
Yeah,
and they're going to
they're
be
mad
mad
at
at
you.
you because they believe in
Exactly.
superstition.
Oh yeah.
So
And
that's that's
there's
just
a
how it
lot
works.
of them.
And
There's
that's
a
why
lot
we
of them.
try to accommodate people with their
Mhm.
superstitions, and it's we try to be polite and
Yeah. Well, again,
something
it
that-
goes back to etiquette. 'Cause
there's
we-
ways to get around it. We can explain it by saying Big Red instead
Yeah.
of 7, so
So
we
it's
can do
being
it,
nice.
so we could
It's being
accommodate
nice.
them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's being nice. So no
Anything
elevator
else we
pitch
should
for you.
head on before we open up the phone line? And
No, I think we're ready for the. Oh, by the way, for the beginning players, do you suggest the pass line or no?
yeah,
Okay.
once they start asking questions, when the game starts over and the puck goes off, I'm like, the basics of the game is to bet on the pass line. The dice are going
Okay.
to choose your number for you. So let's make the bet and see what it chooses.
Okay.
And
so
then
you
I'll
do.
throw in, it could win with a 7-11, lose with 2 or 3 or 12, but it'll pick a number for you.
Okay.
Let's see. So yeah,
So
I do.
You'll do it, and you do have to mention if they're going to throw.
Yeah.
They
Just
need
throw
to
it
do
to the
that.
far end of the table and don't worry about it going off, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So overall, do you like new players at the table?
I love it. And I
Okay.
would love them to ask more questions. I wish know-it-alls wouldn't explain,
And oh, by the way, I'm not pushing. I'm not trying to be a know-it-all.
No, and I don't
if
mean
they
know-it-all.
ask me, no. If they
Yeah,
ask me, I'm telling them.
And I
I'll
know
let them
that you
know.
explain the game properly. I'm talking about the know-it-alls, not that they know the game, is that they inject their play style into it, of like, always max odds,
Yeah.
always bet the horn to cover your pass line. If you're on the 6 and 8, you always got to do a hard way. Like, no, these are your things, this is not explaining the game. This is explaining how your style. And I see more than often than not, people explain their style as opposed to just explaining the game.
So when you hear people like that, what I think of is mine is like bad jargon for some reason gets on my nerves. For some people say, like, somebody rolls a 7 and everybody loses or whatever, and they say, "Oh, he crapped out."
Yeah.
No, he didn't crap out. It's technically not crapping out. That's not a proper term. If you've read any of the books, you would know that kind of thing.
I
But-
try to keep it light and not correct anybody. That's why I
Yeah.
said I usually don't interject and correct anybody. I just let it go, because eventually, we don't need to get in an argument. And eventually, if they like the game, they'll play it again and they'll learn, or they'll watch videos or whatever. We don't have to correct everyone. We don't have
Right.
to
Right.
preach. We don't have to explain every bet every time. So I would say probably the most important thing, and you've kind of mentioned it multiple times, is kind of feel the student out as best you can. Give them as much information as they're willing to, or they seem to be understanding, and just
Chunk it up.
teach them that
yeah.
it's a fun time.
It is.
I think that's the key. It's a game for entertainment, and try to have fun with it, and try to explain the game in a way that they're going to enjoy, and don't try not to overwhelm and scare them off. Just
But
ease
I
them
also
into
give
it.
them resources. I will give them the color
I
up
like that.
resources, and I'll say, hey, look, if you want to try to learn how to play craps on a cruise, you can do that with our buddy Brian at Holy Roller and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I try to give them resources. I've actually brought books on the cruise, and I've had people who've like really gotten into it and gone 2 or 3 times. And I used to always bring a extra copy of my favorite book with me, because I would get them on Amazon for nothing, or used or whatever, and I'd give them what my favorite book was on craps or whatever. But yeah, I think that's a nice way to do it. So I see you reaching for the phone, so I think
I'm
we're
going to go ahead and turn it on.
we're heading to the monster roll. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's
All
go
right.
ahead and wrap this show
Wrap it up.
Again, thanks to Sports Grid for distributing our show, and we thank the listeners for watching on YouTube, for those who stick around on YouTube. But we're going to go ahead and shut down the podcast here.
But
hope you
we're
learned
going to be
a little
live right
something.
now.
Yeah, we hoped you learned a little bit about how to maybe help players at the table when they come up, and help grow the game, right, by answering a few questions. So Till next time, good luck on coloring up. All right, the phone. I guess I should throw up the phone number.
Yeah, throw the phone number up. It's 6, 7, and 8,
Yep.
and then the number 7,
Yep.
and then the craps numbers, which you'll learn about, 2, 3, 11, and 12. And it'll go right to Jeremy's phone right there, right now. There's no producer because we don't produce anything. So it'll go right to him.
You could probably tell that, right?
You go right to the front of the line, caller.
But I will try to hang up on you as quick as possible if you cause me grief. But most of our callers are usually pretty good. You can, I learned last week, you can actually text that number. So if you want to text it information, we can maybe answer it on a future show. You're more than welcome to ask questions there.
Okay.
Obviously, on YouTube Live here, the comments will probably be
the
easier,
quickest way, yeah.
Quickest way. But yeah, if you want to call us, you're more than welcome to. The phone lines are open. Let's go through some
podcast.
There we go. That was quick. Let's see who we have on the air with us. Welcome to the Color Up podcast. Who do you have with us?
Jeremy.
Hey.
Jeremy Swick. How you doing, buddy?
Very good,
Quick question. I'm in the casino playing bubble crap. Has this ever happened to you? I am up almost $1,500. I got $800 out there playing. All of a sudden, the ticket spits out about $400, leaves me $900 to play, and it locks it down. I've never been that high up on bubble crap. Is that normal?
Not normal, but I'm not familiar with it because in my jurisdiction they don't. But in some jurisdictions, they're still classified as like under the slots, and so they've kind of programmed in. The number is $1,200, right? So at $1,200, they, on slots and stuff, they issue you a W2G, or is that a W2G? I can't even remember. But a lot of these bubble machines are like, once you hit that 1,200 amount, they kick out a ticket.
Right.
And won't let you play above that amount. So that sounds about the right math, but that's the number. And it's just some of them are programmed that way.
Right, because I had like $600 on the 6 and 8, or $300 a piece on the 6 and 8, $100 on the 5 and 9, and maybe another $100 on the 4 and 10. But when they locked it down, they took all my bets off. You know what I mean? Even though I knew.
Oh, and force you like to remake
they had
them.
The money up there. Yeah, they like I had to start all over with a $5 or $10 bet.
Yeah, that's annoying.
They pulled all my bets down. They pulled all my bets down, which I knew what I had, but that made me nervous. Like, what is this, rigged?
Yeah, no, it's not rigged. It is programmed, and I believe it's a 1,200. I've seen them online. I have never experienced it myself, but I know some of them they force out a ticket, and you can't go above a certain amount. So it sounds like what you've
exactly. And let me with almost $1,000, $980 to play with, and they pulled on. The thing about got me is they pulled all my bets down.
They're just trying to help you out. They're trying to help you out so you don't have it all out there and lose to the 7. Yes. They're trying to
force regression.
No, don't worry. That made me nervous. I got up and left.
Well, there you go. You probably worked out for you. I mean, who knows? Maybe you missed out on some more money, but yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I didn't know that was normal. Like I said, this is the first time I ever.
Where at was that at?
Yeah. Caesars. Is that Caesars in Danville?
Danville. Okay.
Virginia. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, different jurisdictions do it differently. Some actually will issue you, which is annoying, but a lot of them will automatically spit out a TO ticket. So, yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I just did like it kind of ticked you off.
Yeah.
Because you're on a roll, and all of a sudden you got to start all over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's.
I hear you.
Doesn't really seem to be fair. You know what I mean?
No.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Hey, great show, y'all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Listen to y'all all the time.
Bye.
All right, buddy.
Bye. Well, that was interesting. So they have apparently the bubble craps machines. We didn't talk about when we did our bubble crap show. Apparently, there's some built-in coolers into the bubble craps.
Yeah,
machine.
there's some different situations for different jurisdictions, and I mean, I can't speak on it enough because I don't know it enough. But we got another caller on there. Who do we have with us?
Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Dave in Maryland. I was been watching Dice Advice. That's for those who don't know. That's one of Jeremy's signature series on his channel there, where he takes advice, playing styles from other people, and he plays them out. Watching Dice Advice, I have kind of an advanced craps question, and it may not be the right question for the group here. It may not be, in which case that's fine. We don't have to talk about it. But it has to do with auto buying the 4 and 10. And is that something that you think we could talk about or not?
Yeah, I think so, especially on Bubble Craps. I was almost going to mention that, like, on Bubble Craps, you always buy the numbers. And unfortunately, on most of the Bubble Craps machines I play, when you buy them, when they win, they come down and you have to put them back up. So if you've pressed them up, you have to remember. Whereas if you just make a place bet, they stay up when they win. So it's annoying because you should buy them, but you have to always replace them, which gets a little annoying. But along those lines, yeah, I think a buy bet's a fine question. Go ahead. What do you got on the auto buy?
Well, okay, so this is not with the Bubble Craps. This is
I understand.
with table craps. That's okay. So sometimes when you do your Dice Advice, you say, okay, this is for a $5 table or a $15 table or a $25 table. And I'm kind of curious, if you go and play in, let's say, the standard casinos, Vegas, Reno, do they auto buy at different amounts? Okay, just two-part question. Do they auto buy at different amounts depending upon what the low limit is on the table? And then the second part of the question is, when people go to your Dice Advice and you play it out on a $5, $10, $15, $25 table, can you help me understand how you choose, when you're doing the Dice Advice, how you do auto buys for the different table limits?
Sure. When I roll out videos, and people, unless they specifically specify, and they almost never do, I don't do an auto buy, so I should talk about that, but I always do VIG or the 5% commission for buy bets on a win only. So I do the color up, Jeremy's Nice Casino. It's VIG on the win only. It lowers the house edge. It makes it a better bet. And so when I roll things out, I just assume it's a VIG on the win only. So the difference between that and auto buy is there are some casinos, and it's gaining popularity in Vegas, where you don't even have to say anything. Once your bet gets to $20, they just start paying it as a buy bet, and they don't even move it. They don't move the position. Instead of, they leave it right on the line. They don't have to move it in the box. Some casinos, but with an auto buy, they still take a VIG. So when they just take it out of your winnings. Some casinos, you have to specify and say, hey, I would like that to be a buy bet now. So they'll move it up. They'll put the little lammer on it, but they still won't collect the VIG up front. They still collect on the win. So it acts similar as an auto buy, but they make the player request it. So that's the difference between auto buy and a buy with a VIG on the win. So they paid the same, they're treated the same, but the dealers just automatically do it for you, and it's really great. It's great for the customer and player. You might see this in player friendly places like Biloxi, and then you have the bad casinos, which I call them, which is, like cruise ships. We've mentioned those a couple of times. They take the VIG up front for buy bets, which it's still better than a place bet, but now you're betting $21. It's where it starts. So you're having to pay the VIG up front, which is, it raises the house edge. It's crappier, but it's a way for casinos to make a little more money. Did I answer any questions?
What do they do at your casinos? What do they do in Reno, Jeremy?
They're all mixed. So I can't remember which one's which, but one of them will auto buy, so you don't have to say nothing. One of them will take the VIG up, or a couple of them will take the VIG up front, and most of them will only take the VIG on a win only. So a little better rules. Most of them are not auto buys. They won't do it automatically. You have to ask for it, and most of them will do it at $20.
Okay.
10
And that's
because
regardless of yeah, that's regardless of whether it's a $5, $10, $15, $25
Right,
table,
because-
always at 20.
right, because the math doesn't work at anything lower. Now, it does still work at a $10 table, but a lot of casinos won't allow it because 5% of $10,
50
whatever that
cent.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, $1.50 or whatever. So they won't. They're essentially doubling the VIG to 10%, even though it would
Yeah.
pay better because it would pay you 19 on a $10 bet instead of a place bet of 18. So yeah, the VIG is 10% technically, but I still get paid better. But they, so some casinos will accept a buy bet at $10. But most of them go, you know what? In some of them, it's state rules like, hey, we're not allowed to charge you 10%. We can only charge you 5%. So it's got to be a $20 bet. Therefore, 5% is $1. And there's no rounding. And so that's why everyone will do it at 20. Some will do it at 10, but it's pretty rare. And then, depending on.
Okay,
where
one
you are.
last question, then we'll get to another guy. But
Yep.
Getting back to your dice advice, when people submit their strategies to you, right? And there's strategies where you're making place bets that could get turned into auto buys on the 4 and 10. How consistent are you on how you handle those on your dice advice?
I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but when it hits $20, I make it a buy bet and then just take the VIG on the win. So I'm pretty sure
and
I'm
I think
consistent throughout all my videos like that. There may have been times that I
Okay.
didn't, but
All right, and
for
then-
me, that's how I usually always treat it. Once it's $20, I move it up. It becomes a buy bet. I don't do auto buys
Yeah.
because it's confusing to
Okay.
leave it. I move it up, put the button on it, and then take the VIG out of the winnings. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for
Thank
the
you,
call.
Jeremy.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for handling this topic.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably answered a lot of other
Okay.
people's questions.
Take care.
So I got like 5 calls while
In
he
that
was on the
one
line.
thing.
So
Yeah, they were
if you don't
bugging
get through, there is no call. I don't have no system.
No
Call
staff.
back.
Podcast.
Here we go. Just that quick.
And I wish I had a quicker system to put it like I have to like turn it on speaker through the machine, whatever. Caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us?
Robert.
Robert.
Hey.
Yes. Jeremy, how are you?
Good. What's your question for tonight?
Okay.
What do you got for us?
What I got for you is very interesting. Jimmy is continuing to insist that keeping track of dice bros and counting numbers, how many numbers make or miss in a certain amount of dice bros, he's insisting that this strategy wins and always win. Okay? And my response, I'll read it to you word for word. Ask any university math student or professor if counting throws or counting numbers in any way can win over the long term. Are you up to the challenge? Deleting this comment is an admission of denial. I rest my case. The title of this YouTube is the exact title of Jimmy's YouTube video that I just commented on. It's called Playing Craps Using Math and Profits New Craps Strategy from Hedge.
That's
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
Mike, you and your subscribers might want to take a look at that and look at my post if it hasn't been deleted yet. And I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's I always, these things that come up, whether it's controversial topics, whether it's dice counting or in this case dice tracking, if it worked, go pro, right? Win $1 million or whatever. Math begs to differ. There's not much I could say beyond, my challenge would be, hey, if it worked, go pro with it.
What this reminds me of? It
Yeah.
reminds me of WWE and my favorite guy on the mic, The Rock,
Okay.
when he would always, the interviewer would ask him a question, and he said, "Well, what do you think?" And the guy would start, "Well, I think," and he'd say, "It doesn't matter what you think."
yeah. Okay. Was
The
that
dice
The Rock? Okay.
don't care. The dice don't know that it doesn't matter.
The other side of it is YouTube is an entertainment platform. I mean, it is information, but you got to be careful what you're watching and seeing, because some people, they literally say things to get a rise out of you.
Yeah, it's like a shock job.
Right. So they say things to get your blood boiling, or say things that they may not believe in, or whatever. They're just, that's the game, right? To get your attention. And so, if people have different opinions or whatever, just don't worry about it. You do your thing. But I'm certainly in the camp that I would love for it to work. I'd love to track all the numbers and be able to predict the future. Unfortunately, I don't think you can. And if someone could, they would, they would be banned. The game would be shut down.
It'd be shut down. And the other thing too is when he was talking about the professors, I was like,
I forgot.
No, but I mean, yeah, we had a professor on, episode and built a machine, and it's just to me, it's done. But I mean, I don't know. Some people. But I mean, I'm not rooting against anybody.
No. Yeah,
but
if you want to count,
but when you say it's guaranteed or it's this or that, that's why I think people like you, because you're sincere, and you're, again, not rooting against them. But do I think it's possible? Absolutely not. Am I rooting for you? Absolutely. You can set them. You can blow. You can't blow on them anymore, but you can do whatever you want. But yeah, that to me is just not good. It's just unbelievable. That's all I'm saying.
Casinos aren't worried about it. I mean, they'll let you bring your notepad, track all you want. So,
I
mean, you go play a baccarat, right? And they hand you the papers to track.
They're right down.
So
get it down.
They're not too worried about you tracking the dice results to try to predict the future. So. Got any questions that we see online? I don't
All
have
right,
a
let's
phone
see.
call, so
Well, let's see. BC earlier said finally made a YouTube account just to thank you both for what you do, whoever BC is. Thank you on that. Crowd Pleaser jumped in. Let's see. What would you recommend the iron? Here's one question earlier. I think it got answered by somebody.
you can bring those up.
Yeah. Here we go. What would you recommend the Iron Cross or a modification of it? Would you recommend for the new shooter? I would not. I think the Iron Cross is at least the third or fourth day on the cruise. No.
I have a little different take. There's variations. I don't mind the Iron Cross
For
type
beginners?
things. Well, not for beginners. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I didn't know if that was for a beginner question.
I thought that was for
yeah,
beginners.
it may be, but
Okay.
it's short, very short term. It's not something that you play for 2 hours or whatever. But I don't mind it if it's something where I've shown a couple recently where you have 6 and 8 in the field. You got all the dice combos covered. You win $40, and now you can play 44 inside risk free or something like that, right?
Okay.
Short
In and out.
term,
Yeah.
those type of cover all the numbers with the field. It's a cheap way to cover a lot of numbers.
Sure.
I'm cool with. But to continue playing with it, I've done multiple videos.
Yeah,
on it.
the churn.
The churn of the field bet is the most devastating bet on the craps table.
Wow.
So, yeah, I dabble in it is fine, but as a long-term play, it's not a good idea.
Okay. Let's see. And then our number one fan, Naomi, said, hey,
Hey.
earlier. Yeah.
She's still around watching.
Yeah,
but
probably not.
glad to
But our good buddy Fran across the pond, and hello,
Yeah.
Fran, if you're still listening. You need to be careful when newbies start asking questions, as questions can keep coming. Very easy to lose track of the role. Being polite can be expensive. And I can tell you, Fran, it is firsthand knowledge this past cruise, especially the last night. So very much true on there. So there's wisdom from our club members on there. Let's see.
But it's got to be worth it. You're introducing a new player.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
miss out
that's
on a couple bucks.
It's so much fun.
Maybe you should streamline your strategy, or maybe it shouldn't be so complicated. But
Yeah, that's true too. Let's see. What else we got on here?
Skill and Luck asked the question, do you teach them the fun of tipping the shooter as well as the dealer? You know what? I've
never done that.
I've never thought about that. I have tipped a shooter, but I've never really taught. Again, that's probably like one of those tier class that maybe learn craps 301. Like that's pretty
301,
advanced,
yeah,
but
that's a
that certainly
higher,
is
yeah.
fun. You know, I guess if
you hit the ATS, do you throw at least a quarter to the shooter? Come on, man.
well, yeah, you got to throw them something, right?
Yeah.
I would think so.
Okay.
You know, if you're you have $10 on it and you just won 1,500 or 1,750, yeah, maybe thank the shooter a little bit. But yeah, it's a good question. I've never really thought about teaching people to do it for sure.
Okay. The Vegas day tripper earlier said if he's in the mood to chat, he'll explain the key points of the game. If he's not in the mood, just tell him to watch a video on the Color Up channel, which
That's funny.
I talk anyway and tell him to watch the video anyway. So that's a
Just
good
going
one.
right along with it. Newbies love the field.
Oh
Shooter
yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, and I do see that a lot, and those are one of those things
agree.
I don't. I would love to correct someone. I don't, but I see them come up. They got $100. They start betting the field. I'm like, they're going to be gone in 5 minutes. There's no chance of them winning. And sometimes they win a couple, but they almost always give it all back. It's just the nature of that bet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they do love it just because it's simple. You get a lot of numbers and you just plunk your bet right down there. But yeah, for a fact. And I never really talk about that when I teach. Like you said, I go, you bet on the number, you pick a number. So I'm usually talking about specific numbers to
Right.
bet on. I go, 6 and 8 are great bets. And then like a little bit further, I'll explain how the pass line will choose the number for you. But I rarely ever mention the field, but they do ask. They're like, well, what's that? I'm like,
Oh yeah.
well, that's a bet where any of those numbers roll, you win your bet. But what's not listed there is more likely to roll and you're going to lose your bet. So
I can't tell you how many
they
times
do
I've
love
seen
it.
a guy come up. Sometimes they'll buy in the middle of the row. I mean, it's the same person but different, and it's the same. They'll buy in with like $100, and it's like $10 in the field, $10 in the field, $10 in the field, $10 in the field. Sometimes they'll stack it, sometimes they won't. And next thing you know, they're there, and then you look up and they're gone because it's just that quick with $100 and being in the field on that one.
Yep.
Yep.
Here's a question from LYC Sailing. I need an app for my laptop to practice suggestions. And he said later he was practicing different crap strategies. Someone mentioned Crapsy. There are online things. This kind of goes along with teaching people. I'm an old school guy, and Jim could tell you people learn in different ways.
Tactile, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm more of a tactile. I say if you can buy a cheap Amazon mat and get yourself some chips, or even just use pennies, nickels, dimes, and draw your layout. For me and people like me, so beneficial to move your bet up, pay it so you know the payoff, and to move things around. It registers so well with me, and that's how I suggest a lot of people learn strategies and payoffs. Hey, if this goes here, this will pay this. But I understand not everyone's a tactile visual learner like me, but I think that is a fantastic way to learn beyond,
I would say be
there are
careful on
online
which
stuff.
apps you try and play with, because I remember when I first started going, before I ran into Color Up, I found an app, and I think it started me off with like $100, and next thing you know, I've got like $13,000 on it.
Yeah.
Man, this is incredible.
I could tell you
Yeah.
for a fact, because I've talked, some of them want to partner with me and that sort of thing. Some of them are literally built for entertainment, right?
Right.
So if you have an app in the App Store that keeps that doggone 7 keeps rolling and I keep losing my money, which is craps, right? You're destined to lose money long term in this game. I keep losing in this game. Well, that app now gets a bad rating. It drops to the list. No one's going to buy a bad rated
nobody
app.
will play it. Yeah.
So they list it as an entertainment game, and they structure it so you can take your $100 bankroll up to $10,000, and then you think, hey, I'm going to take that to the casino. My strategy, but no, it's programmed so you win. You go, oh wow, this is a great app, 5-star, right? But they're entertainment apps. Now, I don't think Crapsy is one of them. People complain about that one, like, oh, there's too many 7s. But I believe they use a random
Number generator.
a pretty
yeah.
good number
Yeah.
generator, and there are others out there. I don't know them by name, but certainly many of them.
And you can
contacted
switch
me.
it off to where you can input your own number, so you
Input, yeah,
can
there you
roll
go.
your own
Roll it
dice
yourself.
in there.
But yeah, do be very careful. If you're constantly always winning on an app, just buyer
Probably not
beware.
good, yeah. Individual
I know
results may
from
vary
inside
in the casino. Yeah.
that some of them are literally just labeled and rigged for entertainment, and they want good app ratings. They don't want to show you reality that you're going to lose more often than you win.
Hey,
So-
I got one here for you. This is a good question. How would you handle this one? You ever have the guy explaining the game to his friend right behind you, and he says 7 over and over and over again? Yeah. What do you do with that?
Well, for me, like I've mentioned a couple times, I kind of mind my own business.
Mhm.
I'll let that work itself out. Someone's probably going to say something to him, but I'm not going to step in and be like, "Oh, you shouldn't say," whatever. If they're not directly talking with me, I'm gonna mind my own business and keep to myself. What about you? I have a feeling like you might help them out a little bit with that, Jim,
I might say
because that is a pretty huge etiquette issue.
It is. It's a breach. I might turn around and say like,
It's officially a breach, not an etiquette. Yeah, yeah, I can see you doing that.
there you go, like, or maybe more subtly like 7, and then it's not really polite to say that. Yeah, that one.
Blame other people. Most people wouldn't like,
Yeah,
their
hearing that
superstition.
number.
They think
Mhm.
it's bad luck if you say 7 out loud. So, just most
Yep.
people would. I don't know.
And then my
Blame
buddy
other people.
Doug said,
Podcast.
jumping in
Go
and
ahead.
saying hey. No, my buddy Doug said hey earlier. I just wanted to say hey to him.
Hey, Doug,
Go
thanks
ahead.
for watching. Caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us? Well, we had one and they hung up.
He hung up. Well, we had him.
We had
And
momentarily.
by the way, you can call and hang up just like that guy did at 678-723 23, right? 11 and 12. Okay.
Well, someone
we
left
go.
us a voicemail. I wonder if I could play it. Let me try to play it.
Okay.
See if this works.
New
over the air.
territory.
Yes, hi. I just want to say I just came back from Laughlin, and I tried the bubble machine. That's the one that crabless bubble machine, and I kind of liked it more than the slot machines because I won more there than I did in the slot machines. And then when I got enough money to play on the real table, and it was fun. But I did win $800 and something,
Wow.
280, 180, 100. Well, of course, in different days, But you did lose. There was one guy that was getting 7s every other roll on the crapless bubble machine. So it's just my opinion that it's not. I don't think it's rigged. I think it's just the same as a regular table game. If 7 is going to come out the most.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much. You have a good night.
Hey,
Thanks for
great.
calling in.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, great one on that
No,
one.
yeah, your chances of winning at a table game, even though it's electronic, are better than slot machines because slot machines are, rigged or programmed to take, 10, 15, 20% of your money. And as long as you stay away from the bad bets on a craps table, it's chance, and they're not programmed to take any money. So, you got a better chance to win at them.
All right, I got another one here, Jeremy. This one, we're not ducking the hard questions. I don't know who Bob is, but Bob said, what I say about the state lottery is that it's a tax on people that can't do math. Same could be said about light side players.
Hold that question because we have a caller on the air. That's a good one I
Okay.
want to get to.
All right.
Who do we have with us?
Hi, good evening. This is the crowd pleaser.
Hey, crowd pleaser.
Hey,
I was reading or responding to your questions in Discord or something, or I think were you posting some of those AI pictures?
Yeah,
or
the
something?
AI
Yeah.
image on the Discord channel.
Yeah.
All right.
So what's up?
My question was to pose a hypothetical scenario where you're trying to educate a newbie and you've got them on the pass line. Would you then go with the pass line odds or no odds or single odds, because now you've got two different types of payout on the same number?
Yeah, that is a great point. Jim, I'll let you try this first.
Well, I can tell you I did it on the cruise. So, yes, at first I would explain to them about, at first I let them bet a pass line bet, and then they would see me placing the odds behind it. And they said, well, what's that? I said, well, that's an additional bet, but it pays better. And I would say, well, you don't have to. And they said, I'm going to do the same thing you do. And of course, the point was 4-10. And if it hit, which it did a couple times, then they could literally see the money difference between the pass line payouts. So that was a lot better than that one. So I agree with you on crowd pleaser. It's kind of, it might be a little distracting, but it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah, I agree. I keep it simple. So I do tell them about it. Say, hey, after usually it's like step 2. So, okay, let's see where the number goes. And then they'll usually ask, like Jim says, because they see it happening, right? People adding odds, they go, what's that? I usually try to keep it. I don't explain. I just say that it's an additional bet, and depending on what number, they pay a little different, but they always pay better than the pass line bet. So you're going to get paid. I don't break it down like, hey, you're going to get 2-1 or 3-2 or 6-5.
Because who knows if they know what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to get paid better with this additional bet. If you want to, and I always say, if you'd like, okay, our pass line bet, see where the puck is? We have a bet on the 5. If you'd like to make an additional bet to bet more money on that 5, if you put it, it will pay better. You're going to lose if we roll 7, but if we hit, we're going to get paid better with this additional bet. And I kind of leave it like that.
At what point do you explain that the pass line bet's a contract bet and the odds can be pressed or removed altogether?
Yeah, it usually doesn't come up that often. Some very rare. No one pulls down their bets really, so you usually don't have to talk about contract versus not contract. And usually I don't get into pressing of place bets or regression of place bets. So it's just kind of like you put the bet up there to see if it wins or loses. So you're basically waiting for resolution. And I kind of treat the odds the same way. Okay, once you bet that odds, let's just see if it wins or loses. And it just depends on, I feel them out, like how advanced they want to get. If we get into, 3, 4, 5 times odds, usually when I do talk about it or introduce it, it's only single odds. Is what I say to put, hey, it's $10. We'll just do what's called single odds and put $10 behind as an additional bet. They would have to seem to be understanding as a beginner for me to go, well, you can actually add, 3, 4, 5 times odds or 5 times odds or 10 times odds. Or you can raise them or lower them. Those are type of things that, as a beginner, probably not a conversation. Again, you don't want to scare them away or overwhelm them. But again, depending on how they're understanding or they seem to be understanding, maybe you can dabble in that.
And I do mention about it. It has to be resolved, and it stays there until the number that is up there rolls or big red rolls. So I do that. As far as the odds go, when I was doing it this time, I mentioned it sometimes because they'd see like a 7 on a come out roll after I had some come bets established, and they'd see me getting my odds back, and they were confused like I had won something, and I said, actually no, I had actually lost $30, but I got $60 back because I had double odds on 3 come bets or whatever. And they said, oh, well, what is that? And I said, well, those technically you can cut those on and off. You could have them returned to you if you want. Take those down, but the base bet is just like the pass line bet. But yeah, it depends on the student on that one.
Thanks for the call. I have someone texted me. I'll just discuss this quickly. Would like you guys to discuss the power of same betting. Thanks, Seam Diest. I'm not sure. But I've run, especially with Dicer, I've run simulations comparing same bet versus single press, double press, power press. The longer you go, same bet almost always wins out because it's less volatile. So less risk, less reward, but long term, it just kind of always finishes up on top. Power pressing, that sort of thing, it's going to depend on your short-term roll. They can quickly take a big lead
Yeah.
But then they're more volatile because you got more money out there, right? So when the 7 does roll without a regression, you're going to lose more. So you're going to see other forms of pressing go up and down more. Same betting long term. It's going to be, but what is long term, right? The weekend, it's not long term.
Yeah. Yeah.
Running 1,000 rolls in simulation is long term. Oh man, I still want to get to that question. We got another caller.
I'll leave
here,
it up.
All right, caller, you're on the air. Who do we have with us?
Hi, how are you guys doing tonight?
Hey, very good.
Hi, my name's Jennifer, and I was calling because I was wondering you guys' opinion on dealers getting involved in teaching players craps, especially at a busy table.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
What can you tell me? What triggered this question? I mean, have you had a bad experience, or what have you seen?
I'm a dice dealer of 17 years.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, wow.
I've had it where people get upset when you're not paying attention. I was like, well, I am paying attention to the game, or I felt like I was. But some people are like, oh, you're distracting us, or you're taking away from the game while you're trying to teach. And then the other side of it is a lot of times when players come up and you're really eager to teach them the game so that they'll come and be regulars, they don't want to hear from us. They want to hear it from other players. So I was just wondering what your opinions are on dealers getting involved.
I think that last part comes in because a lot of players are, which is unfortunate. They're like, the dealers are against us, right? They're part of the casino. They're the man.
Yeah, and that's so,
right. And they don't understand,
perception.
right. Dealers would rather you win because
A
you
winning
could potentially
player.
tip, and that's how you guys make primarily your money, right? So, and I think that's just a misconception that most people, so they always think, oh, the dealer's against me, right? So that's the first problem. And I've seen a mixed bag. Some dealers, and I know you guys have rules. You have to be very careful because you can't suggest bets or whatever. You can teach the game, but you can't, say, hey, you should do this or do that, right? So I don't know. I like it when dealers answer questions concisely and simply. It is. I do see people get frustrated when there's 7 players right on the side and they're experienced and they're ready to go, and there's no one willing to help out the new guy, and the dealer's doing their best to help. I appreciate when I see that, but obviously, well, you're a longtime dealer. You know that most of us are jerks, right? Most of us dice players are jerks.
Oh, come on now, Jeremy.
Come on. I'm going to say,
are we most of
Jennifer,
us jerks?
am I off base or what here? Okay. She doesn't. You don't need to answer this. Okay, you don't need to answer this. But I've seen it personally over a decade or so that most of us are rude, more rude than most nice guys. I'm not talking about the dice club, color up or anything like that, but I'm just saying. So I don't know. I certainly appreciate when dealers try to help out, to stop and explain and break down the whole game, like maybe Jim's doing. I don't know about that, but tips here and there, I certainly appreciate, but I can see where, veterans get frustrated, especially when they think you're against them, and now you're busy helping this guy, like you can't handle both,
or slowing things down.
Yeah, you're slowing it down. You can't do 2 things at once.
Right, exactly. Like I could deal this in my sleep, but yeah, I can't explain it while I'm dealing your little bets, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like I can't book the guy next to the stick and the guy next to the base at the same time. I can do that, sir.
Right. Well, I mean, but again, as a player experience, though, not everyone's an experienced dealer, and we deal with break-ins and stuff like that, and they can't, right? And so, and we we always remember the bad dealer, and we project it on every dealer, and we're like, are they good or bad? But anyway, I definitely appreciate your service to us players.
Yeah, I think
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, thanks.
In 17,
I don't know if we answered your question completely, but did anything else?
Yeah. No, kind of. I really do appreciate you guys, and I watch your YouTube videos all the time. Even as a dealer, it's like, oh, I just learned something new. And I especially like how you do the Dicer IO at the end.
Yeah,
okay. I really do think
cool
that is very helpful at the end.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
Appreciate your call, Jennifer.
So
thanks.
Keep on doing what you do. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
That was nice. I was going to tell her, if I see a dealer that's getting some flack because she's trying to, or he's trying to explain to a beginner, I jump in and try to help out. But I disagree with the
You don't think
more
the
than
majority?
50%. No, I don't think a majority of people are jerks. I don't think so.
They must be nice over there in Virginia.
I think we're nicer as a,
Maybe
everywhere.
50% is a bad number. I don't know.
I mean, really,
I can
half
tell
the
you-
table, half the table are jerks. 50%.
I could tell you, my son, my daughter, he's a dice dealer.
Yeah.
We could have asked. I should have asked.
Should
Jennifer.
ask her.
A
Yeah.
cocktail waitress who he's been dating long term. They'll tell you, dice players are the worst tippers. They don't tip, and they're just, I don't know, real experience. They'll tell you they're the worst.
Okay. That's
I mean, I don't know. I certainly love DiceCon because it is fun and a great group of players. But most tables you go at, they're going to argue about the problem in the middle, the $1 bet. They're going to argue with the dealer about this. They're going to yell at the player who says 7, whatever their superstition. The dice hit someone's hand. They freak out about that and they're angry about it. They're not like, oh, dice hit the hand. Of course, the 7. No, they're literally legit angry about it. I don't know. I don't know what the number is. Obviously, I pulled 50 out of my
yeah.
rear
You
end.
got 50.
But I see a lot of angry people when it shouldn't be. It should be a game for fun. And I see not. I mean, you have money on the line, right? So
yeah.
that is something to it. But still, yeah. And I see a lot of
Okay.
jerks. I'm gonna stand by that. I'm gonna stand by
Okay.
that, Jim.
All right. Like I said, I don't think so, but maybe not.
Good. I mean, you're not one of them. You're one of my favorite
No, but
fellow players. But yeah,
I just
In all my
50%
experience,
seem
yeah.
high. 50%
I may
seem
have
high.
I may have pushed it with that one, but
That's all right.
certainly
That's
the
all
bad ones make up for the
Oh,
the,
they're louder.
the quiet one because there's probably a large percentage that are neither having
Good or bad.
good or bad, right? They're quiet and they're just playing the game and keeping
Yeah.
to themselves and doing their thing. Love that. So maybe that's the case of the bad ones just stick out like a sore thumb that is like it taints it and it feels like there's more than there actually are. You're probably right. I'll
Okay.
concede that to you.
All right, no big deal. I'm just pushing back a little bit.
No,
but
that's
but we
good,
do
that's
have
good.
that
That's what we do
comment.
here.
We got that comment. down the
Oh,
bottom.
where's the comment? Is it still on the screen? Okay.
Still on the screen. So Bob says, what I say about state lottery is that it's a tax on people who can't do math. Same could be said about light side players.
So basically, he's making a criticism of light side players and saying they don't know how to do math.
Right. And is that true, you think? I mean,
Bob, I would say, and watch some of my my videos, especially like the one on how bets pay or something. The dark side is not some secret advantage. You're not playing with a casino. It's not a secret advantage. Literally, if you're doing buy bets, you're playing a 5% vig. So that's the cut on that. Whenever you're playing the line bet, it's 0.01% better. A penny for every $100 better technically. So the difference is so minute. So to make fun of people or say they don't know how to do math, to save your penny per $100, it may add up over 100 years. But over the weekend, you're going to see light players dominate dark
pick a
side
side.
players,
Yeah, sometimes.
and vice versa all the
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah. Pick a side. Yeah.
I don't know if I just hung up on someone, but they just tried to call. So
All right, let me click off of that.
yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's a little. I wouldn't criticize someone, a light side or a dark side player. Pick your side and hope that your side wins because it's pretty freaking close to 50-50. House edge is 1.41% versus 1.40%.
Yeah. You're talking about on the line.
0.01%
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, this is a good question. Maybe I should ask some of the dice influencers about this one. Do you do better on rough seas or calm seas? My experience, it doesn't matter. So it's the same. So
It's the same for me because I've only had to take Dramamine or whatever like once. Most of the time, whether it's choppy or smooth, I don't notice a difference. But once I did, and it was worse whenever it was choppy because I had to take a pill to calm my stomach down.
Okay. And Joe had this one here. Let me see. I never even thought about this. It says casinos are generally on lower decks, so sea conditions doesn't really have an impact. I didn't know that, but I mean, like some of them are 3, some of them are
3 or
level
4,
5.
right?
Yeah,
3, 4,
5.
and 5. I think I've always
Yeah.
seen. Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
seen one up on the deck.
No,
Wouldn't that be
up
cool?
high.
Nice sunshine. At
Yeah.
the, nice
Well,
table in the pool.
Yeah,
right?
tub. Yeah, a little tub one there. Yeah,
We
that's
should
it.
we should demand that. We want to be able to play blackjack and craps in a pool. You know, like some places offer.
Let's see. Yeah, Ed said earlier. He said,
Here we got to follow up on Bob.
Okay.
And I'm glad he followed it. He said he didn't mean to insult light side. Just sorry about it. Just that there's less house edge on the dark side. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Technically, you're
absolutely.
correct. Absolutely. And I'm glad you
100%.
clarified that. It's just
Yeah.
how it was worded. It's,
Yeah, it
that's
seemed
fine.
like a little.
We're all hoping to win. Play dark side or light side, though. Pick your. We certainly,
Absolutely.
none of us are going pro.
Not going pro.
So,
no,
yeah,
I'm
thanks
still
for the
going to get
follow-up,
up.
Bob.
I'm still going to teach tomorrow morning. So that's true. Let's see. I'm looking at some comments here. This is a
Merv brought one
go
up.
ahead.
I find it's the dealers that interrupt the flow of the game as they are willing to take a buy-in at any time. I hold my money until the roll is complete, but when they want you to buy in, I do too. I'll tell them no. I wait. To me, I've learned that etiquette. I
Yeah.
teach that etiquette. Wait until the puck goes off. But I don't blame dealer. I don't think it's a dealer thing. They're management, whatever. If someone wants to buy in, you take their money and you let them buy in. So from their point, they would probably get reprimanded if they said, "No, sir, you cannot play yet." So I don't blame the dealers specifically.
They always. I think the casino makes them.
Yeah, the
always take
casino's
money.
like take their
Take the
money,
money.
anytime
Yeah.
they're offering it, right? So I
Yeah,
think that's
absolutely.
dealer specific as opposed to policy specific.
Yeah, and
But
then
yeah, I wish people would all just wait till the puck goes off. But some people don't know the etiquette, and some people just do not care.
yeah, they're going to buy in. They're just pushing.
Especially when they buy in with all the 20s, right?
Yeah, that's that-
$2,000 in 20s. Like,
Yeah,
oh
that's
my
that,
gosh.
and they're the 50% in your world. So, but yeah, our buddy Jeff at Mid Atlantic Crap said, "Hey," to us earlier
Hey,
if he's
Jeff.
still listening, and he's got a great show and a lot of stuff going on. I hadn't spent a lot of time with him lately. I've been real busy, so my apologies on that. Let's see. I'm keeping going down the line here. Let's see.
Okay, we got someone chimed in. He didn't leave his name, but he texted and said, out of 10 shooters, you're going to have one jerk. We are nicer in VA, Virginia. Is VA Virginia? I'm guessing.
Yeah, VA 2 up,
So
2 down.
he's saying 10%.
Yeah, 10%.
Would you agree with 10%, Jim?
A
That's still a little too high for you?
little too high for me.
Okay, all right.
I'm not saying you're not going to have, some, but you're going to get.
It's volatile. Some weekends you'll have 2 out of 10. Some weekends everyone will be fine, right? You'll go 2 weeks with it.
I think the number of jerks goes up versus the number of money that's being lost. So once you start,
bad table.
yeah, cold table.
Harrison
yeah.
has a question for you, Jim.
What is
How
that?
do you distinguish between being a craps enthusiast and having a problem?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have any other hobbies or just eat, sleep, dream, and breathe craps?
Oh, I've got hobbies all over the place, baby.
Jim is a very well balanced man.
I'm a Renaissance man. I played soccer this morning in my over 50 league, and by the way, we tied again. The 1 week I missed for my cruise, we lost 2-1. This time we had a 2-1 advantage in the last 10 minutes of the game, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to win. And then we had a mishap. The goalkeeper caught the ball, and it's not his fault. And I'm not blaming him, but when he hit the ground, the ball scooted away, and somebody else kicked it in. I was like, oh my gosh! And then we had a couple hit the thing, but no, I got a lot of hobbies.
You're a part-time car mechanic.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, the day I got back from the cruise, my son and I had to change the alternator in my truck that went bad the night before.
The right
I went
before,
up.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting there waiting for
You can follow Jim on
AAA.
Facebook and see all of his car adventures.
Yeah, they're out there. And, oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. I did get a thing from Facebook when I came back from while I was in New York. It said, "Congratulations, you have unlocked Facebook Professional or something." And I was like, "What in the world?" And it said, "Oh, you can be monetized and da 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 da." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it." Or whatever.
I don't know. I have a Facebook account. I'm not good with it. I usually get on there every couple months and find out I have a bunch of messages to me and stuff like that. But as far as for me, because now it's my job, it's a little more difficult to be balanced. But certainly, when I'm not working, between the club and making videos, I'm a researcher. So currently I've been on a kick of researching golf again lately. I used to golf a lot, and now I'm like kind of researching it again.
Okay.
I've got other things that I like. I love Zelda the game, so I've been playing every once in a while. I actually finished Luigi's Mansion 3, the Nintendo Switch game. So every once in a while I'll pick that up. It took me like months to beat this game. So I pick it up sporadically and not often, but I do like other stuff. And it's, and I don't, people think, color up, you must gamble all the time. Very rarely do I gamble. Now I do, because I cruise now a couple times a year. That's a great excuse for me to kind of force myself to play. But otherwise, like the dealers don't know me in Reno. I don't go that often, once every few months or something like that with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So, I definitely don't sleep, eat, and breathe.
No, I don't. I don't.
I certainly love it.
Sing.
It is a great
we
game,
love to
but,
sing. I'm in a couple choirs. Yeah, I got a lot of other interests out there. So
yeah, and this is kind of, I think is that he meant it in a lighthearted question.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
a lot
I
of people,
know.
especially when you're new into craps, you're like
Oh,
watching all
my
the YouTube
gosh.
videos, or you
Yes.
build a table, and that's great. I love that, and I'm certainly kind of still in that phase.
we've gone through that wave. It's like a curve or a wave on stats.
But if you're talking about a problem, that would be if you're spending money that you should be using for your household.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah.
No problems with me on that one. But yeah, I got a lot of stuff. But yeah, when you first start getting into it, it's like, wow, this is pretty fun. It's like playing Risk when you're an adult, like when you were a kid. Let's say.
Jeez, we had one cruise where it got choppy and we had to grab the table to keep from falling down. That's extreme. Yikes.
Yeah, that would be that's a choppy table, literally,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Let's see. What is this? I saw this one. Merv asked earlier, said, "Is there any strategy for playing crapless craps?" I've never seen crapless craps on a cruise ship. But then he asked,
I've showed a few. I have the opposite side of my layout is a crapless. I hope to get more Dice Advice submissions so I can roll some crapless, but
they're not as
there's
coming
no
in as
dark
quick.
side, so there's no
Yeah.
hedging. There's no, most 99% of them. I just made that number up, but most
Yeah.
of them don't allow lay bets. So you're literally place betting or doing a pass line come, mixture.
What's VDT? Do you know what that is? How is VDT so successful?
No idea.
Maybe VDT is a YouTube channel.
Is
or
that
something? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I have no idea. Merv, let us know what VDT is.
If you're still out there,
I
let's
think so
see.
because he's mentioned a couple things recently.
Okay.
VDT
Let's see.
Vegas Day Tripper.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if that was they were having an internal conversation or whatever.
No, but it's probably what that is. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. What about this
Maybe
one
all
here?
these angry craps players are the ones with problems. You're angry
Could
because the
be.
money hurts, right? It could be. If you're
Yeah.
getting angry about losing $100, you either can't afford it or you might be having a problem. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I know when I went down to Cherokee, there was this one guy who was the angry player. And sometimes, you're waiting for the spot to open up at the table And sure enough, I'd go right beside him. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious because he would just get angry at every throw, and he, hit the chip, and he's like, "That's not supposed to happen," and why are they doing that? And just like, oh my God, just stop. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, here Joe's kind of setting things straight on this one here. Our buddy Joe say, hey, if any of the YouTubers played craps were realistic, it would actually say how many wins and losses they have and currently are. Yeah, I've never seen a YouTuber. I mean, very rarely do you see a YouTuber like, hey, look, started with this and ended up with an empty hand. Nobody posts a picture of empty hands.
There's no empty hand porn, right? It's always chip porn. Right?
It's chip
I won
porn.
$5,000. Yeah.
Although to their credit, some of these like super rich guys, I've seen them. Hey, we're gonna spend $10,000 or $1,000 right here at the craps table. And
right,
bam,
$500 across all the numbers, and and they do a live video and they lose it. But overall, they're usually not telling you the stats, or
not usually.
Or that the casino's fronting that money or whatever. So there's all kinds of situations as entertainers and YouTubers that become available to us that, that people don't really always, aren't always forthright about.
Yeah, there's definitely some opinions on, Joe had one about the jerks who don't honor the etiquette for craps. Sometimes they're just pigs and all. But sometimes
I would say those are the minority of etiquette problems where people just don't know.
Yeah,
because there's
most
so many,
people
right? There's
on,
so many superstitions and etiquette with craps. Daryl Q, I was recently on a cruise and don't players are still hated and kill the vibe at the tables.
Yeah, it's a definite thing.
It's a thing. Yeah. For me, I welcome them. I mean, hey, more the merrier, and I don't care how you're playing. But some people don't like the vibe.
Well, it does. The
Jim
cheering's not as loud, right? The cheering's not as loud.
No, because it's discouraged. Because you lightsiders don't like when us darksiders win and go yes.
Maybe we should put them on one side of the table, and we could have the good, yay, no.
That would be funny.
Yeah. That would be
like
hilarious.
more like a football game, right? Like,
yeah. In your face. 6, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Not really. That's it. It'd be
we should
fights.
try to pull that off at DiceCon. All right, everyone who's playing dark over there, light side over
here. Well, we had a lot of comments tonight.
Yeah,
you're coming in.
But we should wrap this guy up.
Yeah, we should. We should.
Maximum, we're going to stick around for 8 more minutes. If we get any more calls or comments.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep Jim up too late. He's already hacking over there.
Yeah,
he needs his
trying
rest.
to recover, but I'm going to be happy to go to school tomorrow after this crazy week I've had. So I'm going to be happy to go to school. Let's see. Yeah, this is 100%. This is the one thing, for whatever reason, the don't players, they never have like the right. It's always like some a stack of white chips down there or something like they get every white chip in there, but and then some people go crazy and just do what. They just throwing at it. I admit, when I first started playing, I was doing it. There was some guy in New Orleans.
Trying to knock down the towers?
Oh, yeah. I was knocking down those towers, man. I would slide them down there or whatever. And oh, my gosh. And one other true story here. This wasn't with a don't, but we had one player who we were playing. And when I was shooting, he did it for everybody. But he was late betting, and he was an experienced player, but I was like, oh my gosh, he'd go to bed and then he'd put his hands down and he'd bounce and whatever. And one time,
they're trying to gain their edge as a dark side player.
He was on the light side, but he was just he was just one of these drunk guys. And I told the guy playing beside me, because the dice were going. There was only like 4 or 5 of us playing at this point. It was late at night, and I said, if the dice come to me again next time he lays bets, I'm gonna just drop it right on his head there. I'm just gonna and just chuck them on down there. It's just like irritating. But yeah, that's not very very good etiquette. It's not very nice to be that late. But Daryl Q came up and said, what's my go-to strategy to win a free cruise? So I am not one. I've only chased a free cruise one time in my Royal Caribbean career. I got it. I went with Brian's Light and Darkness, and I lost money, but I did not lose enough to pay for the prepay for the cruise, probably maybe half of it. But I sniped myself on that come out roll, and it was terrible. This past one, I was just trying to play different ways, and I still played my basic way of, basically a 3-point molly, occasionally placing the 6 and the 8. And that was it. That was the highest house edge bet I made on that one. I went in the field a couple times when I got up on that last night. So, but yeah, those late bettors drive me nuts.
You can hit repeat last bet and it'll put them back. This is something I always forget. Earlier in the show I mentioned
the bubble
buy
craps.
bets I always make. They automatically pull down after the win, and I always forget repeat last bet, and they'll throw them back up there.
On all machines, pretty much.
Everything, yeah. As far as I know,
even if you were the big money and got the ticket out on that.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. That's a whole different situation. But a lot of times, like, okay, I started at $3 and then it went to $5, and then now I have a $10 buy bet, and then it wins and it goes down. Repeat last bet will bring up that $10 bet, because a lot of times I go, dang it, now I've got to put $10. What?
And you got to do it with the time, yeah.
Yeah, and there's So, but yeah, I always forget about that repeat last bet, Dan.
Yep. So a couple of things I'm going to answer. Daryl asked me another question, but Joe, yes, I'm with you 100%. Man, I can't stand the late bettors. It drives me nuts. But Daryl, to answer your question, yes, every cruise line I played on, I've been on 3, Celebrity, Carnival, and Royal. I do get offers, and it looks like Big Jeremy's going down for the count, and he's 3 hours ahead of me.
Yeah,
or behind me. No, behind
me.
Behind
7?
me. Yeah. It's early for him. But anyway, yes, I've gotten offers on all 3, even playing with the Molly. Now, the question is, did I get the cruise certificate from Royal that time? No, I did not. I didn't get the one, but I get the offers in the mail. I want to say twice a month at least from all 3 of these guys, and you can call, and if those dates didn't work for me, it says call and ask for about another cruise or whatever, and sometimes they could apply it to a different cruise or different whatever. So all 3 of them say that.
What's interesting about 3-point Molly, you add odds, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah.
You usually start with single, and then as you win, you add more.
That's right.
But they're not rated ever by anyone,
supposedly.
right? So,
supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly. But I think if you're playing and you're tipping,
the tipping is the key, I think, and that's the fastest way. Make friends.
They can
with the
punch in
dealers.
whatever number they want.
Yeah, nobody really cares over there. And when I was tipping I played one night on the cruise 3 hours. I swear, I'm exaggerating a little bit. A couple other guys started tipping also, because I was teaching them how to tip and teaching them. They said, "What is that?" And then they started doing. So if I'd say dealers across for 6. After I got up, they were saying dealers across. So now they've got $12 going across the box and that kind of stuff. So I think the guys were showing me a lot of love on the machine, especially that night. I got 800 and whatever points and actually that was a night I didn't do too good and I didn't stay too long, but I was tipping pretty good. So yeah.
And some people wait to tip at the end. They're like, you know what, which is fine. But if you're looking for comps or whatever, tip from the very beginning or while you play or whatever, because you may be a generous person and tip pretty well at the end, but they don't know that. So because they enter their number ends early.
Yes.
All right. So if you play for 2 hours and then tip at the end, I think they can adjust it, but
And I once I build a rapport with them, I was like, especially after I get like knocked down or my 3 come bets get knocked down, I was like, hey, Lana, show me some love on the machine back there or something, Hey, I'm trying to help you out.
Obviously, tipping's required, and this isn't something like this is a bribe. But in a way, I mean, you're showing appreciation, and it's just human nature, right? I mean, if you treat them well and have a good time with them, they're going to help you out if they can, hopefully, right? So, I'm not saying like, oh, you got to, I don't know. It is a tough topic, and it's still optional. But hopefully you be generous and they'll be generous back to you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's like you said, it's human nature, and that is true. And I've never, and I told you that one time I got up to the 1 year I got up to diamond level with Caesars was because of the tipping, and I'm convinced it was of a one particular weekend. And I had them on the ATS for 555, same as me, and we both hit. And next thing I know, my points went through the roof, and here I go. Yeah. That's,
right. Well, 1:59:55, so we got 5 seconds left.
5 seconds. Can the pit boss give out free comps for steak? Yes. Actually, I don't know if it's the pit boss, but I've gotten on the cruise underneath my door. It'll say casino host is sent you to get private dining, or the casino host says you can do.
They do the spa, massage.
Yes, and stuff like that. So I'll give that to Bonnie.
I know a lot
if
of
I get the
players,
spa.
usually big players, will get bottles of wine and stuff like that. So yeah, they can do whatever they want.
And then Merv agrees also. I know you're trying to get off, but Merv does agree that they do. If you treat them well,
Good
they'll
karma.
treat you
Good
well.
karma, right?
That's right.
Okay, I like the topic today. I feel like I was unprepared, and I don't know if I answered greatly how to help players, but I mean, we both shared our experiences, I guess.
I think you were
how we help
prepared. I
players.
mean, I don't know how you prepare.
No, I mean, not
for
prepare,
that.
but I mean, I wish I can give people like a definite. Yeah, I mean, you just got to feel out new players and see what
I
they
think,
can
yeah,
handle.
everybody's an individual.
Yeah.
And 50% of the table is jerks anyway. They don't want you talking to anybody. So, but my ratio is a lot lower than Jeremy's ratio.
Less than 10%, because someone texted in 10% in Virginia, and you're
Yeah,
even lower
see
than
that.
that. So
Yeah,
I love the
yeah.
positive vibes that you're putting out on people.
I try
Man,
to.
There's very few jerks.
Very few.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're good for next week. I don't think we should be able to see.
What is next week? Anything special? There's no holiday or nothing, is it?
I mean,
What's
I
the
haven't
date?
looked on the calendar, but I guess we can. No, there's no holidays or anything, so
All right.
we should
So
see
we'll-
you back here next Sunday night.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Until next time, you guys have a good night. We'll see you.
Bye, everybody.